Dominions and Battle Sisters. At time of recording, which is somewhere around June 2024, both units cost the same number of points. 115 of your finest Imperial points. And they're both built from the exact same box. Used to make 3 units, but... You get 10 models in the box, you get 10 models in the unit. No more, no less in 10th edition. And you are familiar with a regular power armoured lady, you have the same stats almost all the way along. Movement 6 inches, toughness 3, 3+ save, 1 wound, leadership 7+, and the only bits then different is the OC. The objective control is higher on the Battle Sisters than the Dominions. And they both also have the 6+ invulnerable save that's been a staple of the Battle Sisters since like 3rd edition. In 10th edition it rarely comes up because there's not a lot of things that are AP -4 that's going to knock you so far off the armor save that you actually need to roll the invulnerable save. AP -3 will still only reduce your 3+ armor save to a 6+ armor save. But it's there for fluff reasons if nothing else. Whether you pick Dominions or Battle Sisters, each version will have at least 4 ladies with bolters and 1 with a bolter and a simulacrum. The simulacrums do a different thing in every edition. This time, now that we've got the codex, it generates miracle dice. At the end of your command phase, for each objective marker that has at least one of your models on it, and somewhere in the unit is the Simulacrum Imperialis, so it doesn't have to be that particular simulacrum model, just the unit. At the end of the command phase, you roll a dice. On a 1 to 3, you get nothing. On a 4, 5, or 6, you get a miracle dice of that corresponding value. So if you rolled a 5, you have a miracle dice of a 5. That's not bad. We need miracle dice to make the army work. The more ways we can get miracle dice, the better. And both units have a cherub. So once per battle, after you performed an act of faith where you use a miracle dice, you get another new miracle dice. You just roll that and add that to the pool as normal. It works the same for either kind of sister unit. And unlike at the start of the edition, there are no bonus shots from the Dominion's bolt guns. But the Dominion's bolt guns are a little bit different to the Battle Sisters bolt guns because they have assault, so you can advance and still fire them. But in the Bringers of Flame detachment, so can the Battle Sisters, so can everyone and everything. So along with some sisters with bolt guns and a simulacrum and a cherub, you will also have a sister superior. Each of them has the same weapon options. To do it quickly, what I suggest is a plasma pistol. This replaces the bolt gun, so you also have a bolt pistol. As such, that model can fire all of its pistols at once, so you get a plasma pistol shot and a bolt pistol shot. When you're overcharging the plasma pistol, it becomes strength 8. That is the same strength as the Inferno pistol, and the plasma pistol has twice the range. So, at the moment, in this edition, Inferno pistols are not a great choice. But plasma is not holy. Only the bolter, the melter, and the flamer are holy. Though this is just a background thing, don't worry about it. For the regular Battle Sisters, a Condemner bolt gun is a good choice. It has a better hit chance than a combi weapon, and a near guarantee of doing a mortal wound against psychic enemies. So big things like Magnus, Tyrannid monsters, they will suffer. But to be honest, having a bolt gun like the Monopo's Old Combat Patrol Superior isn't bad. It makes very little difference in the game, and rolling is faster if you're armed with just another bolt gun. The Dominion Superior has the same choices, but usually they're getting much closer than the Battle Sisters, so Plasma Pistol is fine, or a Hand Flamer. That doesn't come in the box, so you'll need to take one from the Celestian Sacrosanct or the Seraphim box. As a torrent weapon, it can take advantage of the Bringers of Flame enhancements and stratagems in a unit of all Flamer Dominions. If you're going with lots of Flamers, add a Hand Flamer. If you are going for Melter Guns or Storm Bolters, use a Plasma Pistol on the Superior, or again, a regular bolt gun is fine because that is assault. The other weapons are not, at least not on the Superior. So a Melter Gun in the Dominion squad, that is assault. A Flamer in the Dominion squad is assault. A Plasma Pistol on the Superior does not have assault, so if you advanced, you couldn't fire that Plasma Pistol. Though in Bringers of Flame detachment, all the weapons are assault. Your sister Superior can also have an extra melee weapon, either a chainsword or a power sword. A power weapon because it could also be an axe or a maul. Same stats. That's 2 attacks with the power weapon, hitting on 4s at strength 4 minus 2 AP, or with the chainsword, it's 3 attacks, hitting on 4s at strength 3, just the same as the combat weapon. I see no reason not to go for the power weapon, because armor penetration, even against the lightly armored enemies, -2 will remove the save completely on something like a Hormigant, or a Termagant, or an Imperial Guardsman, or an Orc. All of them will lose their 5+ save. But if your model has a chainsword, that is fine too. The game isn't going to be won or lost just because you didn't have a power sword. So the special and heavy weapons, and here the differences really start. The Dominions can have 4 of their sisters swap out their bolt guns for melter guns, Artificer Stormbolters, or Flamers. You can mix them up if you want. In a small game like 1000 points or less, having a mix of Flamers and melter guns can let you take on a variety of enemies. So if there were no enemy monsters in the army, just neophytes that you were facing, melter guns become a terrible choice, while Flamers are amazing. But all of the same weapons is the best, as you have a tool, you just need to point it at the right enemy unit that you want to open up. Melter weapons for heavy infantry, things like Gravis Marines, Terminators, Meganobs, and tanks. Light tanks really, but in the Bringers of Flame detachment, they get an extra strength, which can make all the difference, as it is like, almost, having +1 to wound. Now, you're wounding on 3+ against Rhinos, and 4+ against Immolator equivalents. Another good choice is all Flamers. These are Strength 5 Ministorum Flamers TM, which is better than the Flamers of the other factions. You wound Chaos Marines on a 3+, and Orcs and Votann on a 4+. Bringers of Flame is vital for these weapons as they go to Strength 6, so you now wound Orc Hordes on a 3+, and wound Toughness 3 infantry like Termagants on a 2+. And don't discount that Bolters will be firing 2 shots at Strength 5. There is an extra stratagem in the Bringers of Flame detachment to make Flamers cause devastating wounds. That is okay, but it's going to work better on Seraphim, where there's a lot more hand Flamers. Unless you add Junith for even more Flamers, but then you lose the scout ability. The Artificer Stormbolters are okay. They're usually the one that people choose the least. They're good at anti-marine, anti-gene stealer, anti-2 wound enemies, but they lack armor penetration. In the Army of Faith, there is a stratagem that gives them an extra point of armor penetration, but that's just begging to be countered by something like Armor of Contempt. You will know the enemies that you're facing off against the most often, so you'll know best whether you want to take the anti-tank, the anti-horde, or the anti-marine weapons. Now, with lots of cool guns, you may think, okay, hands down, Dominions are better. But the sisters get bigger guns. Well, one bigger gun. Battle Sisters get 1 heavy weapon and 1 special weapon, or you can have 2 special weapons. But there's no reason not to have a heavy flamer over a flamer, or a multi-melter over a melter gun, unless you just don't have the parts. Multi-melters do not come in this box, whereas a heavy flamer and a heavy bolter do. But if you swap out the barrels on the heavy flamer for melter barrels on melter guns you are not using, there's your multi-melter. None of the weapon choices are obviously bad or overshadowed, so however you built them, don't panic, you're not at an obvious disadvantage, but a combo of flamer and heavy flamer, or melter gun and multi-melter, especially in the Bringers of Flame detachment for extra strength, is a good choice. And a multi-melter in the Army of Faith, well, you can do 2 acts of faith per unit per phase, so you can use miracle dice on each of the damage rolls from your 2-shot multi-melter. That's very nice. But the Dominions have some advantages in special rules compared to the Sisters. You do get more guns that are specialized to kill certain things. That's a very important thing when the game is quite a lot about using bullets to kill enemies and pairing up the right bullets to kill the right enemies. Unless you got something like lethal hits, then that's going to affect the Stormbolters much more than it's going to affect the Flamers, because Flamers will get no benefit from lethal hits. So it does matter which character you're adding to your units. And while the Battle Sisters can have a bit more range with like multi-melters and heavy bolters, Dominions can't. You have to get close. Dominions are very good at getting close. They have the Scout special rule, so at the start of the game, as soon as you know who's going first, they can move 6 inches. So if your opponent's going first, you can move them into cover so that they can't be shot. If you're going first, you could just move as far as possible towards the enemy. Your weapons have assault, so you can move and advance, and then hopefully you'll be in range to shoot something. That's an option on turn 1. Part of the benefit of Scout is if you put the unit in a dedicated transport, then that dedicated transport gets the Scout ability. So, Dominions in a Rhino, that Rhino will scout forward 6 inches. You could then move the Rhino again, another 12 inches in your first turn and disembark and shoot the enemy. Or you could immediately disembark, which gives you an extra 3 inches of disembarking range, then move the Dominions and advance with the Dominions and then shoot. If you needed a bit extra movement, that's how you can get it. And then the transport is there to do whatever it wants. Pick up some battle sisters and move them around, or complete secondary objectives. There's an extra special rule for the Dominions called Holy Vanguard. So normally, if you add a character to a unit that has Scout, but that character doesn't have Scout, the unit as a whole loses Scout. But with Holy Vanguard, on the requirement that you add that character to the Dominions and put them all in dedicated transport, then you keep Scout. So you can add a Palatine to the unit and it will still get to Scout. Junith can't go in a transport anymore, so that won't help Junith Arutia. And the special ability of the Dominions is a reactive move, Righteous Awareness. That's better than any other kind of casual awareness. And I love a reactive move. You can use a reactive move to get back inside a transport. Embarking just requires you to have completed a normal move or an advanced move. This is a normal move. At least in, rules terms, it is a normal move. So if you're under threat, you can get back inside a transport. Or you can move it so you have more bodies on an objective to try and hold it. Or you can pull back and make a charge from an enemy much harder. Oh, I hope you don't fail, Witch. Wouldn't it be a shame if you faltered just short and now you have a lot of angry Adepta Sororitas pointing their guns at you? Rapid fire range. Dominions are very cool, and they've gotten much better in the codex compared to all of their previous versions. But that doesn't mean you should discount the Battle Sisters. They're the same points for a reason. The Battle Sisters are also very good. They have objective control too. The bit that means you control objectives, the bit that means you win the game by scoring victory points. It's valuable. They also have sticky objectives. Their special rule Defenders of the Faith was changed between the Index and the Codex. So now if you control an objective marker at the end of your command phase, it is your objective marker until the enemy takes it off you at the end of any phase. This is good, but it is super valuable at low points costs where your enemy may not have enough units to try and take every single objective. You may not have enough units to take every single objective and still fight the enemy. So being able to go, flag, move on, that helps you win the game because you'll still be scoring victory points from that objective. While Dominions have an ability that lets the characters that join them still scout, the Battle Sisters have an even better ability, though it's not one that's listed on their datasheet. 2 characters can join Battle Sister squads, not just 1. This is limited and it isn't just any 2. The rules for which character can join them is found on the individual character unit you want to attach. So if you wanted to attach a Hospitaller and also a Canoness, you will find on the Hospitaller datasheet that it says yes, you can join a Battle Sister squad if there is also a Canoness. The Dialogus is a very good choice and a very cheap character. They make sure that your melter weapons wound or do max damage, or if you're in the Army of Faith and can perform 2 acts of faith per unit per phase, both. When you use a miracle dice on a unit with a Dialogus, the miracle dice is changed to a 6. So if you're concerned that you might not wound something, now you will. If you were concerned you weren't going to do max damage and you only had a 1 of a miracle dice left, it now becomes a 6. You do max damage. A further advantage of the Battle Sisters compared to Dominions, they have more characters that are available to join them. The Triumph of St. Catherine can join Battle Sisters and only Battle Sisters. They provide a bodyguard for the Triumph and in turn will always be in range for all of its auras. The Battle Sisters can also be joined by the characters from Index Imperial Agents, which says that they can only join Imperial battle line units. So you can have Inquisitors, you can have the really specific anti-Psyker Inquisitor, who loves being on the battlefield with Saint Celestine at the same time, just for narrative reasons, not for any rules exploits. But now your whole unit is anti-Psyker 4+, not just a Condemner bolt gun, which is still anti-Psyker 2+. A regular Inquisitor will give you back a command point on a 3+ after you spent it on that unit. Great! We love having more command points. So the Inquisitors can join the Battle Sisters because they are a battle line unit, and being battle line has some advantages in the Pariah Nexus mission deck, which is the one that people will be playing. as soon as they can actually get the deck because it's sold out in a lot of places. It depends on the mission you draw and the special rule, but a lot of them have an extra boost for battle line units. If you had something like, oh yeah, battle line units can shoot and still complete actions, you can score victory points and still be using your melter gun to destroy enemy tanks. Dominions are never going to get that advantage, only battle sisters. And when you don't have as many units like at smaller points games, every advantage you can get is valuable. And if you're playing much larger points games, well, being battle line, you can have up to 6 battle sister units while you're always capped at 3 dominion units. Battle sisters are really good. Tactics for both of them include having an immolator. Having a unit split by an immolator is another way that you can get more units to complete more actions from the Pariah Nexus mission deck. As soon as you split a unit, they are 2 completely different units for like all rule purposes. So 1 unit of 5 wants the good weapons. In the Dominion squad, this would be the Sister Superior and the 4 sisters you upgraded to have flamers or melter guns. They would go in the immolator. The other 5 will all have bolt guns and 1 of them will have the simulacrum. That is now a unit of 5 that can be generating miracle dice just by being on an objective. The cherub ability, as it's an ability not tied to a piece of war gear, both units of 5 get the cherub. That's where it's a bit confusing. The simulacrum will only affect 1 of the units of 5, the cherub will affect both units of 5. You just have the 1 cherub marker as a reminder of that ability, which is once per battle. To remember for the other squad, you could have another cherub, a coin, a dice, or the power of memory. Use whichever one you have more of. Dominions like being in transports. They especially like the Bringers of Flame detachment, which gives them more bonuses, like you can have a stratagem to cause +1 to wound when you get out of a transport and attack an enemy on an objective. There is a stratagem that lets you advance a transport and then still get out and shoot, but got to go fast is how the Dominions can work. The risk then is that you're pushing them so far forward that they're going to get counterattacked and killed by much weaker enemies that cost less than 115 points. Now you're at a disadvantage. So it can work with an immolator, but a rhino is cheaper, and it will get the whole squad there, for more bullets trying to kill the enemy. This is very much a, you are Bringers of Flame detachment, you want dominions. If you have a unit with hand flamers and flamers, then you'll want the Bringers of Flame enhancement, Fire and Fury. To take more advantage of this, it's good on a priest, which has the Flamer Eviscerator combo, known as the Zealot's Vindictor, so there is yet another torrent weapon that can take advantage and have an extra shot because of the enhancement, and don't forget that all of the bolt guns in the squad will get sustained hits 1. That's a good place for the enhancement if you're not putting it on Seraphim, who have a hand flamers with a Canoness with a jump pack. This is definitely a cheaper version of it. You don't have as many shots because you don't have as many torrent weapons, but your torrent weapons are strength 5 going to strength 6, whereas hand flamers are strength 4 going to strength 5. Strength 6 is a really sweet spot to be. If your dominions were instead in the Army of Faith, you can have extra armor penetration. That'll work on your flamers, on your bolters, on your storm bolters, and it's also there on your melter guns to turn a 2+ save into a no. You don't get a save. -5 melter guns. I love the Divine Guidance stratagem. And you get miracle dice from it as well. Battle Sister tactics are a bit different. You can split them with an immolator. That's good, and then you have 2 units that can be going around stickying the objectives, and just having a squad of 5, as they are 2 objective control each, that gives you equal objective control to a squad of 10 dominions. So you would have 4 sisters with bolt guns, and the sister with the bolt gun and a simulacrum staying back on a home objective. In the immolator, you would have your special weapon, your heavy weapon, the sister superior, and 2 other sisters with bolt guns. You can move them up to an objective, get out, next turn you'll be able to sticky that objective, get back in, and move on to something else. Or you can just go on foot. That works fine. And you can be a tough brick. If you have a unit of 10 sisters and an Imagifier, that is now 10 2+ saves with a 4+ invulnerable save. And if you were in the Bringers of Flame detachment, you have Shield of Aversion on that unit, so if your 2+ save gets hit by AP -1, it stays as a 2+ save. You've played 40k before, you know how annoying a 2+ save can be against a lot of shots. While that stratagem will probably be one you want to save for Paragon Warsuits, if you don't have Paragon Warsuits, this is perfect. With high objective control, this mid-board objective is gonna stay as your objective. It doesn't matter if the enemy tries to punch you to death or swarm you with bodies, it will stay your objective. You can also add a cannon escalate unit as well as the Imagifier, and now you can use Shield Reversion for free. If you don't want to use it that turn and you went second, how about a free Cleansing Flame stratagem, as long as you are not using it elsewhere and you have like a heavy flamer and a flamer in that squad. If you're acting as a brick and you're in the Hallowed Martyrs detachment, still a very good detachment, you can Praise the Fallen. If one sister dies from your solid block because you failed one of those 2+ saves, now you get a round of shooting from the survivors. A single sister squad can kill a maxed sized horde between Overwatch, Praise the Fallen, and a regular turn of shooting. Even a horde that regenerates, like the Tyranids in the Invasion Swarm detachment, will go down. That is your objective now. And because it's sticky, if you've wiped out all the enemies that are going to threaten that objective, you can move on to the next objective and repeat the same thing. There are far more tactics based on the detachments you're using, but let's stick to it as Dominions versus Battle Sisters. So I think, in the Bringers of Flame detachment, I will take 2 Dominion squads and 1 Sister squad. In the Army of Faith or the Hallowed Martyrs, I would do 2 Battle Sister squads to 1 Dominion squad. That tells you that they are pretty equal, both in points and value, though the tactics are a bit different. It depends what you like to do, the way you want to play, and the detachment you are using. For the Penitent Host, let's see what's left in terms of points after all the Penitent units you have in your army. Then I think Battle Sisters. While Mortifiers are very good at holding objective as they are cheap, and if they are charged they can fight on death, usually, using Battle Sisters lets you get your Penitent units up the board, while the Sisters use Defenders of Faith to sticky the objective and be high objective control to hold it down in a way that Repentia and Archoflagellants just are not. You'll have to let me know if you agree with that, if you absolutely prefer Dominions over Battle Sisters or Battle Sisters over Dominions, and if you want to know where I rank all of the other units of the Battle Sisters Codex, there's a video just for that. My darlings and viewers, may your miracle dice always be high, and have a great day of 40k.